Here's the thing. I'm sure if you clicked on this video, you saw the title and the thumbnail and are just about ready to argue with me till the cows come home that Eloise Bridgerton is the absolutely worst friend ever in the history of the show. And how dare I make the claim that she isn't a terrible friend? But before you type, I beg your indulgence and ask that you give me about 20-25 minutes of your time so we can explore the friendships we've gotten in the show so far. And let me know at the end of this video if I made a compelling enough argument for why I think Eloise Bridgerton wasn't really a terrible friend, and instead, it was the show itself that has a friendship problem. Now, before we dive fully into the weeds of Eloise Bridgerton as a friend, hello, I'm Noria, and I like to make videos about characters, themes, and stories across various mediums. That's movies, TV shows, books, anime, and video games. If that sounds like your jam, then might I suggest you check out my other videos? And if you like what you see and what I have to say, then consider hitting the subscribe button. And with that said, back to Eloise Bridgerton. Now, I've said it quite often on some of my past Bridgerton videos that I believe that there aren't any true friendships depicted in Bridgerton. And yes, this included the friendship we were meant to believe existed between Violet Bridgerton and Lady Danbury. But these claims of mine were made before we got the second half of Bridgerton season 3. And when that dropped, I will admit that the show did work at showing us a more believable and convincing portrayal of Lady Danbury and Violet's friendship, especially when it centered Violet's blossoming relationship with Lady Danbury's younger brother, Lord Marcus. Now, do I find it a tad bit annoying that the one time that Agatha showed true vulnerability to her friend was when a potential relationship was on the horizon? Yes, I do. But Bridgerton is a romance series at its core. So I didn't mind the show using romance in this way to move Violet and Agatha's relationship forward. Of course, you're free to disagree with me on this. I have had people in the comments of my other videos point out that they felt that the two women have had a friendship since the earlier seasons of the show, and we got to see more of that friendship in Queen Charlotte, and that is fine. The way we all engage with media is different and varied, and we all bring different perspectives to what we watch and consume as humans. That I do believe us being able to see things from different perspectives and share our thoughts in that regard is a beautiful thing and elevates whatever media we are interacting with. Now, I'm sure if I asked you what makes a good friend, I'm pretty sure a bunch of criteria will immediately pop in your head. We often have a pretty clear idea of what and who we believe a good friend should be. A good friend is someone you can rely on, someone who listens and with whom you can share your burdens, someone who holds your secrets and you feel secure enough in your relationship to share those secrets with them. There are people who aren't judgmental of your choices and decisions, even though they can criticize those same choices. And they are willing to move heaven and hell to help you when you ask for help. I think I basically cover a lot of choices and actions that can make us collectively agree that those are the traits of a good friend. And the reason I had to go into that breakdown is because every single time I rewatch Bridgerton, which is way too many times, I think The dearth of good friendships is something that hits me every damn time. Because take your mind back to season 1, and you will see that from our introduction into the world, the friendships were never prioritized. The world of Bridgerton is one that is depicted as a dog eats dog society by basis of the fact that these young girls only see each other as competition. The other girls don't exist as possible best friends that they can share their hearts and hopes and fears with. Instead, they are people who are more likely to snatch their potential husbands from them or draw the eye of whichever man they are hoping to catch his attention. They don't have time or the space to have friends, because friends will sooner backstab you and take your gentleman than be there for you. And this is the world that Eloise is meant to operate within. One that at its core is not just about the man or the potential of a husband. Instead, it is one where everyone has to look out for themselves. Be aware that you can be betrayed at any moment and no one can be trusted. If you exist in a society where your desirability is what puts you ahead on the marriage mart, and has thus subtly conditioned you to look out for numero uno, i.e. yourself in all situations, then it becomes easier for that to bleed into your interaction with other women your age. Now, I'm sure you're already shaking your head thinking, Nori has finally lost her damn mind. Eloise has zero interest in the marriage mart, so what has that got to do with her relationship with either Penelope or Cressida for the brief moment we got that friendship? And in answer to that, I would like to refer you back to the statement I just made. Because of how competitive and self-serving the marriage mart has turned these young women and their friendships with each other, it often means that they are, by that definition, conditioned to be less selfless and more focused on how things will pay off for them, how it will be beneficial to them, how it would help them. It's very hard to break free of that kind of conditioning, especially when you're as sheltered as these young ladies of the ton. Don't believe me? Well, flash back to when you were a teenager, say 14, 15. Think of how those girls, and maybe even you as well, acted when it seemed like the most good-looking person in your class, or maybe a senior, liked one of the girls. How did the others in the group, how did they often react? Was it with joy and happiness at their friends' and classmates' good fortune? Or was it with jealousy that they seemed to have done well for themselves? I know this isn't me judging or anything. I have also been that girl. I have been that person. We weren't really as well adjusted at that age, nor had we seen the larger world at the time. So I do extend myself a little bit of grace and forgiveness for how I handled some of those situations. And I'm sure you're wondering why on earth I'm bringing up teenagers when the young women in Bridgerton are written as older. Well, it's because in their world, they come out of society at like 16 or 17. That's high school age. That's senior secondary school age. And prior to having their coming out in society, they often led very secluded and pampered lives. So is it too much of a stretch to believe that a lot of their conditioning happened at home? And when in their homes, they don't really get a good enough representation of what true friendship looks like? Can we therefore blame them for failing at that? Bridgerton season 3 pulled back the curtains and showed us a lot of Cressida's home life. And although I know a lot of people still don't like her and consider her actions in the earlier seasons unforgivable, some of us have been able to understand who Cressida Cowper is and why she turned out the way she did. And so when you look at her home life and the kind of woman her mother is and the very obvious lack of female friendships in Araminta Cowper's life, we find it very believable when she tells Eloise that she's never really had any true friends when she got older. I mean, where would she have gotten the role model for what defines a friendship? Where would she have learned about how to create enduring bonds? Ones that last, that aren't rooted in selfishness. And even when you have your selfish moments, because hey, being human is messy. Being a good friend, however, is recognizing when you've crossed that line and can apologize and try and make amends. And just as with Cressida, I look at Eloise. For most of her growing up years, we can assume that Violet didn't have any female friends that, in her interaction with them, Eloise would have been able to see what a true friendship would look like. Now, I'm sure some of you are probably insisting to yourself that I am reaching, that just because we don't see any female friendships around Violet in the flashbacks doesn't mean that she didn't have any friends. And to that, I will say that if it is a friend that matters, if it is a friendship that means something, we would have seen it. The show legit took us to the past, where we got to witness Simon's birth and who was there for his mother, for Lady Bassett, while she was just coming out of the throes of labor. Who was waiting anxiously at the door for news of her friend after the delivery? Agatha Danbury. We see her immediately rush in, and while Simon's dick of a father was more concerned with the continuation of his line that has now been secured with the birth of a son, Agatha went to her friend and was holding her when she passed. And we can say that it is because of her friendship with his mother that had her coming back, where she discovered a neglected and ignored Simon and helped raise him into the Duke he grew up to be. Friendships, true female friendships, are so rare in the world of Bridgerton that seeing them depicted on screen sticks with a person. There is no way that Violet Bridgerton's friend would have stayed out of sight and out of the way in the scenes we see of her having a very difficult labor in the middle of her grief. Even the moments we see of her grieving and right in the middle of her depressive episode, she's alone. It is such a stark contrast because visually, the show is trying to show us that with the loss of Edward, Violet feels utterly abandoned. So much so that even her firstborn son is not enough to pull her out of it. That is the world, the home within which Eloise grew up. All the Bridgerton siblings are close, sure, but her friendship was found outside with Penelope Featherington. And from what we get in the show, it was a friendship born from when they were kids. They went everywhere together, grew closer. And yet we see the cracks in their friendship from the very first season. Eloise Bridgerton is sometimes depicted as being so self-centered, unable to tell or sense when Penelope is feeling distressed, causing the latter to lash out at her, when Eloise, so driven by her determination to unmask Lady Whistledown, couldn't tell that Pen was visibly upset because previously Marina had started to spin her web of deception and seduction that would have Colin Bridgerton fall for her and marry her, even though she was carrying another man's child. We see the moment of Eloise not realizing that although she doesn't like the ton and mocks the gatherings and everything about it, Penelope actually likes that world. She does it often that Pen is driven to snap that she does want marriage, she does want the kids. She wants the shebang of their society that Eloise so despises. And that is when Eloise starts realizing that it seems like she doesn't really know Pen as well as she thought. Of course, I'm pretty sure that that is when the seed first got planted, and then it grew some more when she noticed how much Pen loved to comment on the happenings and the balls, and eventually she put two and two together and was able to get concrete proof that Pen is Lady Whistledown. Now, why did I take you on the brief journey of Eloise's friendship with Penelope? It's because even in their friendships, you see the dynamics that their society has put in place. The dynamics that governs the relationship that women have with each other when their worth is tied to how desirable the men of the town find them. It is implied that even in the way in which their relationship is perceived, Pen is often seen as the add-on friend for Eloise, even though neither of the two girls want that. Their friendship is important to them, but as the viewer, we are meant to watch the clues and cues of societal interaction and the interpretation given to it. And so to me, I see it as Eloise being conventionally attractive from a more affluent family, and even her father's title is higher than Penelope's. Edmund Bridgerton was a viscount. Archibald Featherington was a baron. Even without their society views these men, they weren't on the same level. And so we see the slight coloration of that in Eloise and Pen's relationship. And it helps me understand a bit more the dynamic of how their relationship, their friendship worked. Eloise is the leader by virtue of everything else. She has more of a social currency in their society that is built on their actual social currency. And she might not have wanted marriage, and so her conflict with Pen isn't driven by the anger or jealousy of Pen being the more desirable option for the marriage mart, for example, but the core of the world of Bridgerton being one that has these women on different strata of desirability has Eloise a bit higher in it. And so she navigates their world and their friendship this way. It's why she's extra shocked at the brief moments when Pen shows extreme emotions or anger and lashes out. Pen to her fits a certain bubble, and it's why she's extra surprised when she finds out that Pen is more than that bubble and is actually Lady Whistledown. The fact that Penelope was on Queen Charlotte's list of potential Lady Whistledown candidates before Eloise even considered her friend capable of managing all of that is very telling. And so her anger and rage at her discovering that Penelope was Lady Whistledown was very interesting to me, because I keep thinking of the why her anger was of that scale. Sure, Pen did write about Eloise's turn at being a radical, and so turned her best friend temporarily into a social pariah. But she partly did it to protect Eloise from the Queen's wrath. I say partly because, just as with the other young women that their society has programmed to put themselves and their interests first in securing the bag, Ben also did it as well to protect her own interest and image. Like I've said on this channel, you all know how much I love my baby girl Penelope. But I'm not about to lie to myself that she was utterly altruistic in her choice to out Eloise. Not only was that Lady Whistledown column able to turn any suspicions about Lady Whistledown away from Eloise, but it also temporarily turned the Queen's attention away from unmasking Lady Whistledown. A scandal like that had their entire society talking, and so in an act that was both selfish and self-centered but also helpful to her friend, Penelope was able to secure the bag and protect Eloise. Now, if we were to examine Pen and Eloise's friendship based off of the qualities I've listed at the start of this video, we can come to the conclusion that they weren't really good friends to each other. Sure, Pen listened to Eloise and Eloise occasionally reciprocated, but it wasn't really all the time. And Penelope was bearing such a big secret that she didn't feel comfortable enough or secure enough in her friendship with Eloise to share those secrets. And Pen was judgmental and critical of Eloise's decision to date outside of her class and interact with those with more radical thought. She's willing to move heaven and hell to save her friend, however, but like I said earlier, it wasn't an altogether altruistic move. Neither her nor Eloise were actually good friends to each other. And we see this reflected as well in Eloise's friendship with Cressida. Yes, it was brief, and yes, Cressida did confide in Eloise, talking about her desire for a friendship that was real, that she hadn't gotten the chance to experience since they became young ladies because of all that competition. But yet, even the root of their friendship wasn't on equal footing. Once again, due to varying reasons, Eloise was in a more elevated position than her friend. And it showed in how unequal the balance of their friendship was. Eloise was just looking for a replacement for Penelope, and Cressida suspected that she was just a temporary stopgap. It is why she bullied Pen when she sees her in the season. Eloise is the prize. And just as both girls found themselves fighting over a man, Lord Deblin, they found themselves competing for Eloise's attention and friendship as well. Unlike Pen, Cressida does snap at times and speak up in the times when she thinks that Eloise is being hypocritical about how she views Cressida herself and their relationship and friendship. But there is still that imbalance. Cressida went from the person around whom all the other ladies swarmed because she's slowly becoming a social pariah due to her not being able to find a husband. And so she finds herself needing the friendship of the one member of the ton for whom marriage has never been a priority. Her reasons for the friendship are just as self-centered as Eloise. And that is why both girls are more focused on their issues and what they want. Eloise is all caught up with regards news that Pen is marrying Colin and doesn't take the time or hold the space to be there for her new friend when the latter is spiraling. Cressida, meanwhile, is willing to follow her mother's lead in writing horrible things about the Bridgerton family so that she can bait the Queen into believing that she really is Lady Whistledown and thus gain the money she needs to save herself. The girls and their friendships show us that in the world of Bridgerton, when it comes down to it, these girls have been conditioned to put themselves and what concerns them first. And they will. So can we really blame Eloise for acting and reacting in the way in which her world has programmed her to? And I know you're probably wondering where Violet and Agatha Danbury's friendship fits into this situation or scenario then. And I think for those two women, they represent what is next. Because I don't think it is a coincidence that of the women in the show and the possibilities of a friendship we could have gotten, The only real friends we get to see achieve a true friendship are Agatha and Violet, two women who are off the marriage mart and so do not consider themselves competition, whether consciously or subconsciously. And I find it very telling that it was when romance, both a past one and a potential one, came into the picture that we got an almost blitz of that friendship, an almost crack that would have ruined it, but thankfully both women handled swiftly. Violet discovering that she had unknowingly as a child had to share her father with her now new best friend, and Agatha fighting to make sure that her brother and his courting of Violet doesn't ruin her friendship with the other woman. It's beautiful, really, and has me wondering if it's possible that the reason why Bridgerton does not consider true friendship amongst its famous stars a priority. Shout out to the brief friendship between Genevieve and Sienna. I wish we had more time for them both, but also note that neither woman were ever set up to be in competition with each other for the sake of being higher up on the marriage mart. But back to what I was saying. I wonder if it's possible that the reason why Bridgerton does not consider true friendship amongst its female characters a priority is because the show believes that to focus on the romance of the story it's telling, everything else has to fall by the wayside. Why have friendship when you can have romance? But then again, why can't we have both? But like I always say, those are my thoughts. What about yours? Do you agree or disagree with me? Let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm just looking at all of this wrong. I would love to hear your thoughts in that regard. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. I don't think it's a terrible thing for you to determine how exactly you want to engage with my content. If, however, you do want to share my words with others, please consider sharing this video. It helps me reach a larger audience and helps my channel grow. Plus, it's incredibly supportive of my content. Speaking of support, a huge thank you to my patrons. You all have been instrumental in helping me keep the lights on, and I cannot express just the depth of my gratitude to you for doing so. Thank you. If you'd like to support me on Patreon and can afford it, the link to do so is in the description bar. I make new videos 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Whilst you wait for new content from me, do consider checking out my last Bridgerton video where I explore why I think opposites attract is a lie and a myth, and how Bridgerton helps confirm that stance for me. Until next time, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.